we're live for another episode of Consulting Talk Live, which is, well, it is what it says on the tin. It's a live conversation about consulting, and the purpose of the sessions is to help you in your consulting practice. So if you're a consultant, if you're a specialist service provider, if you're a topic expert in whatever area of expertise that you have, then this show is going to help you with growing and developing your practice. So today, we've got some questions that have come in, and I want to talk to a couple of those. They are Facebook related, which was an interesting one because a lot of people don't see Facebook as being the focus for consulting. Most consultants actually look at LinkedIn as being the place to do their work. But in a workshop that we ran this week was all about improving your LinkedIn experience and doing a bit of a makeover on that. One of the things that we talked about was the how often people are actually showing up to these platforms. Interestingly, on LinkedIn, it's once every 2 weeks, which means if you're trying to have a conversation with someone, if you're trying to engage them in any sort of meaningful way, they could see your message, respond to your message, and then not be back for 2 weeks. And that's on average too. So, like, that means that the people who are active, maybe they're there every other day, they might get back to you quickly, but they're the people who are also on LinkedIn using it as a sort of a phishing scheme or a way of engaging new prospects and new people. The other people who are the ones who will tend to buy, that means because on average it's 2 weeks, if people are on there every 2 days, they're not there like except maybe once a month or once every 2 months. So if you're expecting to have a meaningful conversation because of the back and forth and how that works, it's very difficult to do that on LinkedIn just because of how often people are there. But Facebook, instead of 2 weeks, it's 2 days. So the average that people visit Facebook is every 2 days. Now, that means some people are on there all the time every day, and the other people, maybe they want there once a week, but it reduces the time to have a meaningful conversation. And why conversation? Well, because conversations themselves are the pipeline to your consulting practice. Your conversations are your point of sale. All right. So that's the clarity. Now, Libby has sent through a couple of questions on Facebook in particular. So let me bring those up and I'll put them on screen. First one, do I set up as a Facebook page instead of a profile? Now, there is a Facebook page and there is a Facebook profile. The Facebook page is for businesses, so it's a business page, and the profile is for your personal account. Now, Facebook wants you to use the business page for your business and the personal profile for your personal, your personal life, your personal engagements. But the reality is, they want Facebook to be about the people. They want it to be about the person, the unique individual, which means that they give preference to the profile. So, for instance, if you're doing all this work on your business profile, your business page, and you're posting every day and you're putting messages and videos and all sorts of great content up there, what Facebook actually does with that is it throttles it even more than what's happening on your personal page. So far less people actually see it. Less people will get information from your business page than just about any asset on Facebook. And so there is a purpose to have a Facebook page, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But the reality is, if you're a professional who is going to be doing the work, in other words, people are going to work with you in the consulting practice, then there is absolutely nothing wrong with using your personal profile as the face of your business, because you are the face of your business, right? And so the good thing about that then is that the personal profile will get shared more often. It's more likely to be engaged with simply because of the way the algorithm works on Facebook, where they actually give a preference to the personal profile. And it allows you to connect with people. So your business page, it can do some form of connection, but it has far less features in that sense. It doesn't allow you to do that. So I do recommend that people have a personal profile for their business presence. It's not the sort of personal profile where you go and put your logo on it. It's a personal profile that is your profile. And I think that you should actually, move into a space of authenticity and combine those two worlds. So your personal profile should be you and the business together, right? So you talk about things that you would talk about normally outside of business, because I have to say, for years, I tried playing that game of wearing a mask of appropriate and professional and trying to pretend to be certain things to certain people and tried to like separate my worlds. But the reality is, it took far more energy to do that than actually accepting that I am one thing. I am Russell. And in that, I have the opportunity of people getting to know me as the business person and the person outside of business, which really are the same person, right? So it enables me to be myself. And it also enables my brand to be much more, not only authentic, but it also allows my brand to be easier to work with or far less energy of output because I'm not trying to pretend to be anything. I'm trying to be me. Now, for some people, that's going to be a challenge. For some people, they've got a personal profile where they just want to talk about certain things that they don't want to talk about in their professional life. I understand that. So if that's the case, what I would recommend is that you create a second profile for your personal. Keep the professional one, the actual you, and then do the personal one, actually use that to hide behind the scenes. And so if I was going to do that, maybe I'll call myself Russ P or something like that. I don't have that. I've combined those worlds and it's become so much easier for me to do business that way. Now, the purpose of having a business page, though, there is the main purpose of doing a business page is to be able to do advertising. You can only do advertising through the Meta Ads Manager and Campaign Manager by using your professional page. And so if you do want to do advertising, if you want to use advertising to attract people into your business, and it is a really good way of engaging people, then you would also set up a professional profile, a business page. Do you need to spend as much time? Like, is it like then I've got to do double the effort? I don't feel like you do. I feel like with the business page, you can just update it every now and then when it makes sense. So you have maybe 3 core pieces that sit on that page. Maybe it's 3 core posts that really give a sense of your philosophy. It has a simple call to action on there. Maybe it's a lead magnet or something that people can take advantage of. And then anytime you put events or things that you're doing outside of the norm, add that to the page. It doesn't need to be updated all the time. People don't need to see it updated all the time. Your personal profile is where you actually do the conversations on a regular basis, whether it be weekly or daily. And in that way, you're engaging people. Because as I said at the very start, a consultant makes sales through conversations. So it's you speaking to another human and moving them through a process. So do I need to set up my Facebook page instead of profile? No, I think you should have your personal profile as the main focus for Facebook and set up the business page for doing advertising. Now, I think it's worth setting up the business page when you start your business. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying wait until you're ready to do advertising. You want a little bit of history behind that profile so that it's clear for people that, it's been around for a little while. And there are some benefits in having the page. Maybe there's a searchability element of it. But in all the work that I've done with all the hundreds and even thousands of consultants that I've worked with, I have yet to see outside of advertising and maybe events a really solid reason to actively work that Facebook page. Years ago, it had some credibility, but it certainly doesn't anymore. So that's the first part of the question. There is a second part of the question, which I'll bring up right now, which is, how is the fastest way to get them, or how or what is the fastest way to get them off social media and into my emails? And number one, that is a great idea, because just because they're on social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube or TikTok or whatever you're using, just because you've got all these followers on there doesn't mean they're part of your list, right? So you can put a post on Facebook, you can put a post on LinkedIn, and the majority of people you're connected to will not see it. In fact, I've got over 8,000 people on LinkedIn who are connected to me, and I put a post out and it shows only a few hundred people will actually see it unless it starts taking off a life of its own. And then actually people outside of my network see it more than those within it because of the throttling nature of social media. Just so you know what throttling is, there is a certain amount of information that they can show on a feed, because like otherwise the feed will be flipping past you at like an infinite speed. And so they have to throttle the amount of information that gets shown to your feed. And they've got some algorithm in there that says a certain amount of this is going to be advertising, a certain amount of this is actually going to be, your friends and connections. And it's been more advertising lately than your friends and connections, and you will have noticed that yourself. But they throttle that down, so they basically just show you the things that you engage with the most. And it's good to know that, because what you see coming up will actually be a reflection of your own activity, and it's useful to note. But if you want to put a post out, you can't just send it to your entire list. I've got 8,000 people on LinkedIn, like I said. I can't send them a message all at once. I've got to send individual messages to each one of them if I'm going to do that. I can't just do a bulk campaign. Now, there are ways with LinkedIn newsletters to get a little bit more leverage, but the goal really is to bring them off the social media and into your email list, so that you can send out one message and it goes to everybody. Now, you go, all right, well, what about email open rates and all those sort of things? Well, at least 30%, if on a reasonable open rate, will open it. 80 to 99% delivery rate, so they'll receive it. A lot of it will go to the junk mail, but let's say that 30% of those people open it. It is so much higher at 30% than it is on the throttling that happens in social media. So we do want to get people off the platform and into our email list. So how do we do that? What is the fastest way to make that happen? Well, I like this 3-step move. It's almost like the 3-step cha-cha, which is I engage with people, I connect, all right? I connect with them in some sense. And the same thing can happen on just general networking. So we're out at a networking function. The same things that apply at a networking function apply here on social media as well. So we use the same tactics. We connect with someone in person, we shake their hand or we say hello. On social media, we click connect, or we send them a friend request. There's many different ways to do that, but we connect. We then open with a qualifying question to understand if they are the target market for us. And it's not about saying, hey, do you want my business? And it's not about saying, are you ready to buy my stuff? It's about saying, is this person the person we thought that they were? And often there's a really good structure for that, which is, are you this or that? It's a this or that, an A or B type question. So, hey, great to meet you. By the way, have you got more than 50 or less than 50 employees? If that's your qualifying criteria. Hey, it looks like you're a financial advisor. Is that correct or not? I see that you're a tradesperson. Is it just plumbing, or do you do other services? And so there are qualifying questions that you can ask. And so we connect, then we qualify. And as soon as we've qualified that person, we can invite them to a next step. So we invite them to something relevant. And so this is where niche-based marketing works the best, because if you're inviting someone to something that's not really relevant, then they're more likely to say, well, this is going to be a waste of my time. But if I am, for instance, let's say that for some reason, and I've worked with so many different industries, like 270 something industries over. We counted them last year. Let's say it's plumbers, all right? So you use plumbers. I consult to plumbers, all right? Because I have in the past, I've consulted plumbers. And so let's say that we've identified that they are a plumber, they're running a plumbing business, and our qualifier is, are they working on their own, or do they have a big team? And they tell us that they've got a big team, and maybe that qualifies us because we only work with plumbers with teams. All right, great. Qualified. If they're not qualified, great to meet them. Just leave it at that. We don't need to take it any further. If they're not qualified, if they are qualified, then we go, hey, you know what? I've got this resource. Be specific about what the resource is. Let's say it was a guide, right? So I've got this guide. I've got this guide, which is the 5 best ways to improve the productivity of plumbing teams, right? Plumbing teams. Because you use the name of the identity of the person you're speaking to in there, it's a much much more relevant invitation. And so I've got this thing. Would you like it? Yes, I would. Right. And if you're giving something relevant or offering something relevant that is not taking their time away, you get about 50% of people saying yes. If you're saying something like, hey, I see you're a plumber, I work with plumbers, would you like to have a meeting with me? Like, you might think that, hey, that's really valuable because you know the value you're going to give to them and you know the value of an hour or whatever it is for you. But the person on the other side doesn't know your value yet. And so they see as you taking an hour from them. Not the best way forward, not the best first step. And the next step I'm going to show you is actually going to give you the answer to the question: how do you get them into your emails? So we connect, we qualify with that qualifying question, and then we invite them to something. So we say that's the resource. Would they like a copy? Would they like access? Whatever it might be. Yes, I would. Excellent. What's the best email address to send that to? What is the best email address to send that to? That's the gold, because then they go, this is the email address you should send it to. You take that email address, you put it on your list, and you send them the resource. And if you've set it up in advance, you've already got like an automated process that drip feeds them the resource and then a couple of other highly relevant emails after the fact to help them qualify you, right? For them to actually understand how you can fit into their world. So they start considering you. That can move the people like from leads to prospects actually quite quickly, but we're not answering that question today. By the way, if you want to ask any questions, put them in the chat. Even if you're watching this after the fact, I know this is live, but put a question in the chat or go to consultingquestions.com. And actually, what I might do, I'm going to put it in the chat itself. So consultingquestions.com. That's in there now. So you can go there and you can ask questions, and I can put them in future shows. But I can also answer the question right here and now for those people who are watching. So back to the point. We connect, we qualify, we invite them, we ask for their preferred email, we put it on the list. Now, you might go, well, that's a very manual process. Well, getting people off Facebook, and in fact, getting people into a conversation is always going to be a manual process, because at the end of the day, you want to be talking to people. If you're avoiding talking to people, then you're not going to be doing the work of a consultant. Often there are brokers who see themselves as consultants who are trying to avoid the conversation because they're trying to just take a commission cut. People who fit into this category, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but it's a very different model. Brokers, often financial advisors and planners. So mortgage brokers, banking brokers, finance people. So they're often not wanting to get into a conversation because that conversation takes time away from their commission. But if you're a consultant, you want to be in that conversation, because the longer you're in that conversation, or the more the questions, the better questions that you're asking this person, it opens up the opportunity. And so you might think that as a consultant, maybe you think that you can only charge $1,000, but in reality, you can charge an infinite amount of money based off the value that you can create. If you want to make $1 million consulting business, really you just need to make people $10 million of value, and you can 100% get that sort of the outcome. Or even just take it even further. You go, all right, well, that was 10%. I'm returning 10% value to what I'm giving out there. Even if you did 1%, can I get $100,000 of value for people? That doesn't make sense at all. $100 million of value for that $1 million, right? So we are valuable. There's infinite amount of value there. We just need to have the conversations to open it up. That is the pipeline that we want to create. So connect, qualify, invite. Now, there are other ways. They're not faster, but there are other ways to get people from Facebook, or I think from social media across to your email list. Number one is having a lead magnet on a page. So a lead magnet, for those people who don't know, is some resource that attracts a relevant audience and qualifies them in the process. So again, we've got a guide on how to make plumbing teams more productive in that example. Plumbers arrive there. They go, yes, that looks good. I will download that by giving you my name and email. And you might want to go put in phone number and other things as well, maybe a question. it doesn't change the conversion rate that much to just have those simple qualifiers. So you put that in there, and people can actually sign up to it while you're asleep, which is really, really useful. And you put those things on your social media profiles, you put it in your bio, and you put it in places where it's easy to access you. Having that there will enable you to get more leads. So that's a greater quantity of leads of people who just sort of come across your stuff as you go. And to be actually, let me put in an example for me. So if you go to Russell Pearson Programs.com, you'll see there's a free resource there you can get as well. And let me just put the HTTPS thing in there, HTTPS, and we'll see if this makes a difference because I haven't tested this before actually. Russell Pearson Programs.com. I don't know if, oh yeah, that one's clickable now, right? So you can copy and paste it, or you can click on the actual link. You can download a free resource there, absolutely free, right? And so the only thing exchange is I'm going to start talking to you, right? And there's many ways that I can start talking to you. Sometimes I receive these messages and requests for the resource. The resource is almost always automated. Sometimes it's not. But I get the request, and then sometimes I type back and I go, hey, how you going? What's going on with the business and all those different things. So I'm wanting to get into a conversation because I want to understand if I'm the right person to help you, if you need help, if now's the right time. There is so many qualifiers before I would ever offer anything to anybody because I want to understand where they're at. That's all I care about, because the worst case scenario is I'm in there trying to convince someone who doesn't know what doesn't need what I want to actually take something that's not going to help them. Floof, what are you doing? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Let's talk. This is Floof. Look, hang on. Let me just move this out of the way. Let me see if you can see this. So this is cauliflower Lindsay McFloof. And let me pick you up a little bit more. There we are. Right, so cauliflower Lindsay McFloof, Floof for short. I'm certainly a cat person. Hello. I'm a cat person rather than a dog person. She wants to go. But anyway, that's my cat. She's always around. The 3-step process: connect, qualify, invite. You can do that everywhere. You can do it in networking functions. You can do it in social media. And I just need it in your back pocket so that you can do it whenever you need. All right. So it's about having that resource there so you can take advantage of it when you need it. Again, if you've got any questions, make sure to go to consultingquestions.com, add your questions there. I can put them on for future episodes. If you haven't seen it, you might have come across this for the first time. We have a podcast, which is the Your Consulting Business podcast. It's on YouTube and it's on wherever good podcasts are not sold but streamed. So you can get it on Apple, you can get it on Spotify, and all those different places. I think we're releasing in the next week episode 123, which that's a lot of episodes, right? So that means there's 123 episodes which are more targeted than this rambling conversation, which are all designed to help you in your consulting practice. So if you would like to take advantage of that, go over there and subscribe, and you'll get notified when the next one becomes available. We keep getting told how valuable it is, which is why we continue to do it. It gives you an opportunity to actually know who the hell I am, back to the whole point that I said at the start. We're not wearing a mask, right? There's no point in doing that in this day and age. Trust is under attack because of all these people pretending to be something they're not. And so allow people to see you. If they don't like what they see, great, because it repels them. They wouldn't be the person you want to speak to or work with anyway. Imagine trying to work with someone who didn't like you. That's not what you want. You don't have to pretend to be anything. And in fact, in a consulting situation, you're not a service provider in that you're like, oh, tell me what you want. How can I help you? No, you're helping to guide. You're helping to help a prospect or a client make decisions, right? Make decisions and find a next step and a way forward. You need to be in a position of trust. You need to be in a position of respect. And we talk about all that sort of stuff in the Authority brand, which is part of the Consulting Guild. And I might as well actually show you that one too. Let me get the actual link for it. So again, back to Russell Pearson Programs / Guild. You can find out all about the Consulting Guild there, and I'll put that in the chat as well. It's a very cool community. It's a place where smart topic experts from around the world come together and work to develop and grow their consulting practices. We talk about all relevant topics around sales and marketing, but we also talk about the digitization of their business. Sometimes we even talk about the global political situation and what have you. That's not really the focus of it, but we need to understand what's going on around us so that we can make decisions again to move forward in a most effective way. It is an interesting time, both in trust, in people's belief in who can help them and what can help them. People will spend $60,000 on something to get them a result, and they wouldn't spend $100 on the same thing. It's fascinating. And so there's that's going on one side. On the other, there is this really overwhelmed feeling that a lot of people are telling me about, where they can't make the big decisions that they used to make. And going back into the past, in the 90s when I got started, we used to do 5-year plans. We used to, I was already in the design space. And so when design thinking came along in the end of the 90s, everyone got all into the design thinking side of things, which is strategy, really, creating strategy. And the amount of strategic work that people can do these days is so much smaller. We went through 9/11, and then we went through the global financial crisis, and then COVID. It's like little milestones along the way that have sort of like taken this generation and just like reduced their resilience, I think. And so we as consultants really need to be the people who understand how to work with that energy, how to work with our own resilience, find ways to be engaged, if not obsessive, about our topic. I think it's a positive thing actually to be quite obsessive about helping a specific type of community, and that's why I believe that the focus on the niche, and that's why the question in that qualification piece is so important. Who are you there to help? Who are we here to help? Who is your who? Right? Understanding that becomes goes a long way to giving you not only focus but streamlining everything about your business. It means that you can have a consulting practice that is so much easier to engage people. So through marketing and sales, so much easier to get them the results because it's similar sort of work. I've been told by consultants in the past that I don't want the same sort of clients. I don't want to stuck in a niche because it's going to get boring. It's going to get boring. But the reality is it doesn't get boring because every individual is different. Every individual person has their unique quirks in the way they work. And so while there are frameworks that you can develop to help niches and specific problems, no individual client is going to work exactly the same. So it's never a dull day. There are so many different people that you can help. And if you need help with any of those, then either raise your hand, ask me a question, follow up with some emails with me, say hello. Look at the Consulting Guild as an option for you and your consulting business. But get involved, right? Put a question into consulting questions. Like, let me help you that way. I'm just here to help consultants in any way I can. Next week, I'm running a summit for consultants, absolutely free. It's got nothing to do with my business. It's actually for the Consulting Association here in Australia. But we're running a summit for consultants to have those peer group conversations where we can talk about, in this case, we're going to be talking about digital. So if you haven't seen that, go to Institute of Management Consultants, which is an Australian association. But the Institute of Management Consultants, I'm going to be hosting their summit. And so we'll talk about emerging technologies, their place in that new world. And that's one of the things that I talk about here on these shows as well. It's like, how are we evolving, right? There's a perception of what a consultant is, and that old perception, I think, is dying because people really want value. They want to perceive value, and that's not about lower costs, right? That's not about lower costs, and sometimes it's not about even higher outcomes. Sometimes it's about less risk, increased speed. There's so many different versions of what value is. Happy to have those conversations with you, but looking forward to speaking to you somewhere in the future. Until then, my name's Russell Pearson. Stay passionate, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.